Takadosh Boker Tov, Shavua Tov, Masechet Yevamot Daf Amud Aleph, 104a1. We are on Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Chalitza balayla. Imagine right now if the woman does chalitza in the nighttime. Remember, chalitza is that the brother dies without children, and therefore, right, the next kin, the next brother, he would have to come and do chalitza to the woman, which means either yibum or chalitza. Yibum means he gets married to her and he has children with her, and then those children are al shem achiva met, are going to be named after the brother, right? Or he says he's going to do chalitza. So now here we're talking about the mitzvah of chalitza. So chalitza was that she takes off the shoe, the entire ceremony. Why? Because he doesn't want to do yibum to the sister-in-law. So what happens right now if the chalitza was done balayla during the nighttime? So says the Mishnah, chalitzata keshera. So it's going to be kosher, which means even though usually it should have been done during the daytime, we're going to see in the Gemara. However, though here, if you did do it at the nighttime, it's going to be kosher. Rabbi Lazar said you're not allowed to do it at nighttime. Which means if you did it at nighttime, you're not used to the chobah, and it's a problem. Be small. If right now she did it with the left foot, right? She put her foot in it, as they say. Yeah, which means that she did the wrong foot. Instead of doing it with the right foot, she did the left foot. Chalisata pesula, right? So it's going to be pasul. Rabbi Lazar machshir. Rabbi Lazar comes, he's going to be machshir. So here you have machloket, Tanakama, and Rabbi Lazar in both cases. Whether it's at nighttime, that again, according to Tanakama, it's going to be kosher b'diavad, right? Which means post factum. And according to Rabbi Lazar, it's going to be pasul, it's going to be disqualified. And if you did it with the left foot instead of the right foot, again, Tanakama says it's going to be pasul, which was the opposite of what we said before. And now Rabbi Lazar says it's going to be kosher. Says the Gemara, Lema beha kamipalgeh. Why don't we come and we say that the machloket between them, between Rabbi Lazar and the Tanakama is, the first author of the Mishnah is, the more savar makshinan, right? Because more holds, which here the first more is going to be Rabbi Lazar. He holds that we make a hekesh. Remember that a hekesh is juxtaposition, which means when you have two things close proximity to each other, very close to each other written. So therefore, are we going to make a hekesh between rivim and negaim? What does that mean? Riv is dinem amonot, anything to do with money matters. Negaim are all the types of afflictions of the tzara'at, the leprosy, right? Of all the things that the Kohen has to see. There it says, this is in the Devarim, right? It says, what does that mean? Through their mouths will be any type of a conflict, right? Which means any type of a argument, right? To do with money matters, or or anything to do with negaim. What is negaim? The affliction, right? Which is niget tzara'at. They have to check. Now we know that niget tzara'at has to be checked when? During the day. Meaning you're not going to go to the Kohen in the middle of the night and start checking. You're going to go during the day, right? Not during the nighttime. So he says, the more savar and Tanakama holds, lo makshinan rivim and negaim. We're not going to make a hekesh between what? Between a riv and a nega, which means that Tanakama holds, since we do not make a hekesh, right? The juxtaposition between the riv and the nega, so you could do chalitza in the nighttime. Why? This has nothing to do with the nega. An affliction, imagine right now you're going to come in the middle of the nighttime. I mean, they never had real light like we have nowadays, beautiful electricity. You start with a candle. Imagine right now you come and you show a little tiny tzara'at to a Kohen right in the nighttime. It has to be done during uvyomer ha'otbo. It has to be done during the daytime. It cannot be done during the nighttime. So therefore, if you're going to make a juxtaposition, which means I'm going to say that since they're written close by to each other, right? So therefore, I apply all the same halachot to each other. So therefore, it has to be done during the day. Just like negaim has to be done during the day, dinem amonot and everything else has to be done during the daytime. So chalitza has to be done during the daytime. Now, if you're going to tell me that you don't make this juxtaposition, so therefore you could do chalitza in the nighttime. That's a machlok between Tanakama and Rabbi Lazar. So says the Gemara, lo, what are you talking about? Nobody, according to both the Tanaim and our Mishnah, we do not make a juxtaposition between, right, one and the other, which means we're not making a juxtaposition between rivim, which is dinem amonot, money matters, and affliction. The imakshina is if we are going to make this hekesh, so afilu gumar din balayla namiya. So then you cannot even do Gemar Din, right, in the nighttime, right? Why? We know that Dinim Amonot, they have to start during the daytime, but you could finish it off during the nighttime. Meaning, as long as you started, right, during the daytime, you could finish it, right, during the nighttime. So he says, but here, what is the machloka between them? One of them holds that chalitza is like the beginning of a judgment. Remember, what is chalitza? Chalitza is basically a case, right, where, right, you're starting a judgment. What's the judgment exactly? Right, the judgment exactly is that you're doing this chalitza, which is like a performance. It's an act in order to exempt from ibum, right, from getting married to the brother. And then after doing chalitza, she gets married to the shuk. Nowadays, by the way, this happens as well. Sometimes you can have even a woman that she's 50, right, 60, and the husband dies. There's no children. Now, you don't know if she's going to get married again. Maybe she's going to get married again. So what do? You do chalitza. And once you do chalitza, she can get married to whoever she wants. She can get married to the woman, to anyone from the shuk. But if not, she can never get married again. She stays as if that she stayed married. Right? So that's what it is. So that's what she has to do chalitza. So it says, one savar, and one of them holds, chalitza is like lumarti, which means that chalitza is like the finishing, right? And therefore, right, he says, which is going to be a chalitza, which is going to be done at nighttime. So Rabbi Barchia Katosfa, Avad Uvda Bemuk, right? Uvichidi Ubalayla. There was this rabbi that his name was Rabbi Barchia, right? From Aktisfon, right? It says over here, it's the name of a place, Aktisfon. So it says here, Avad Uvda, he actually did chalitza, right? Which means that he did an action of chalitza over there with a muk, which is basically a type of a shoe, which is made out of felt, right? Or basically a cloth. It's like clothing. It's not a real shoe made out of leather. He did it yichidi, which means by himself, without other dayanim. Usually we said he only need 3 dayanim, 3 judges. Here, he didn't do it with any other, by himself. Yichidi. And he did it at nighttime. So says the Gemara, which one? Everything exactly. So he says, Amar Shemuel, Kama Rav Uvre David ki yichidai. He says, look how great he is, that he did everything like a yachid. He did everything like one person. It doesn't make sense. First of all, we just said, right, that you're not supposed to do it at night. Well, yeah, obviously, right? But he's saying it sarcastically. He's saying, look how great this person is, that he's doing everything like an individual, which means I'm going to find one opinion that you could do A, one opinion B, one opinion C. He did A, B, C, everything. Why? Because I found one opinion for each thing. You understand? You could always find, right? You could always find the people that they look for that one opinion that is always going to be matir. And you always find something. You understand? Yeah, you always find. No matter where you go in the Torah, you'll find one opinion. Right? If you want, even whatever you want, you'll be able to find it. There's always one opinion. So here he went and he found one lenient opinion at nighttime. Lenient opinion to do it with not a real shoe made out of leather, but rather one that you use on Tisha B'Av and Kippur, that is not a real shoe, right? And also that you're going to use it, do it by yourself instead of using 3 dayanim. So says the Gemara, my kashia. What's the question exactly? Yeah, what exactly was the question here, right? In the eyes of Shemuel on Rabbi Barchia. Imuk, if the question was that he used the shoe, which is made out of felt, which means he didn't use a real shoe. Usually, when you have to do chalitza, you have to use a real shoe made out of leather, right? Why? Because the shoe is leather, right? That's a real shoe. That's why on Kippur, you're right, it's not a shoe, right? You're allowed to use not leather shoes on Kippur, on Tisha B'Av. It's not leather, but leather is a real shoe. Here, so if it's going to be because of the muk, which means because of the shoe, stamatanya, we learned in the Bright that chalitza with the nal shelem is kasher. So therefore, what's the problem? At the end of the day, even though you're right, there's a machloket, but stama, there is what to rely on. Why? There was a Braita. The Braita said mefurash, especially that it's permitted. It's okay. So he did like the Braita. Fine. Ilayla, if it was a nighttime, stama time. We also learned it in the Mishnah. What does that mean? In the Mishnah, what do we say? Chalza balayla, chalitza takshera. That was stam. Stam said that if you do it at nighttime, it's kosher. Even though, again, here in the Mishnah, it's mashma b'diavad. It's mashma if you did the chalitza in the nighttime, it's kosher. Not that you should do it in the nighttime. Exactly. I will probably speak about that. But then he says, so therefore what? What was the question? About by itself. If it was done by itself, what do you mean by itself? He says, right? How are you going to do it exactly? How did you do it? It's done. He says, one thing, we also learned this, right? We learned in the Mishnah. He says, imagine right now you come and you do chalitza in front of 3 dayanim or 2 dayanim. And then what happened was that one of them was a karov pasul, meaning one of them was a family member. Obviously, if you're a family member, you cannot be a judge, right? You cannot be an ed, you cannot be a judge. Doesn't work. Or pasul, disqualified. Yeah, the guy went and he was disqualified. Why? Whatever the case is, right? That he was disqualified. So what happens? First, the Tanakama says there, it's pasul. Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yochanan, Sandar, Machshirim. Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yochanan, Sandar. They say it's going to be kosher. There was somebody that did chalitza in jail by himself to the sister-in-law. Yeah. So he says, right? He came and he did this in front. He came in front of Rabbi Akiva. And he says it was kosher. However, we do not paskin like that zug of Rabbi Shimon or Yochanan Sandar, but rather like Tanakama that says it has to be done in front of 3 dayanim. So therefore, it comes out that in the Maaseh B'chalitza by itself, Rav Shmuel, Shmuel was saying that Rav Balchia was going like a yachid. Right? On the other 2, we brought proofs that it's okay. Right? But on this one, yachidi, that's the real problem. Right? So he says, no. By Tamar, if you want, you could say, Kulu nami yachidat tanim. Each one was like a shitat yachid. Each one was an individual. And it wasn't that was the mainstream of how we're supposed to be posek. Why? The time of his learned to the Braita. Amad Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yosef, says Rabbi Ishmael, right? In the name of Rabbi Yosef, he says the son of Yosef, Anida iti et Rabbi Ishmael ben Nisha shechalatz v'muk b'yechidi u'balayla. I saw Rabbi Ishmael ben Nisha that he did chalitza with this felt shoe, not with the real leather shoes, by himself, and at nighttime. So you see from here that this is all like a yachid. So he says like this, okay? Bismol. Okay, that means that was like a yachid. That means he went and he passed in like another yachid, really bad. And every single one, it was really wrong because he needed to have 3 dayanim. He had to do it during the daytime. He had to do it with the real shoe, but he did it like a shitat yachid. Okay, fine. The next part of the Mishnah, right, say that what happens if you did it with the left foot instead of the right foot? Yeah, Richard, this is what you call you're putting your foot in it. Yeah, the left foot instead of the right foot.
What I'm doing is putting my foot in my mouth.
Oh, you would be smart if you would do that. Yeah? He says like this. What does it mean here? Be small. So he said chalitzatas psula, and Rabbi Lazar says it's going to be kosher. My tamad Rabbanan, what's the reasoning of Rabbanan? Amar Ula says, Yalkinan regel mi mitzorah. We learn regel from a mitzorah. What does that mean? Ma lehalan diamin, afkan diamin. What does that mean? He comes and he says, we're learning regel from a mitzorah. What does that mean? We have the halakha of a regel, right? Regel, right? The foot and the foot, right? By the chalitza, how do you do chalitza? She removes the shoe, right? And now they do like with the boot. She removes it from the foot of the yavam. And by that, she does chalitza. So we're learning it now from the mitzorah. Malehalan, to do the mitzorah, we know that we're going to have to put, right, al bohen. Bohen is the thumb, the big toe. So it's on the thumb of the hand, on the big toe of the right foot, and on the earlobe. Yeah, 3 different places. They have to come and they have to put the blood for the atonement for the mitzorah. So he says, Malehalan, just like by a mitzorah, when he becomes purified from his tum'ah, from his impurity, what does he have to do? We're putting it on the right big toe, but it's on the right foot, correct? It's yamin. So to here, it has to be, because it says, right? That's where you have to put the blood and the oil. So to afkan, so to here by chalitza, diamin. So somebody's going to ask you, how do you know you have to do it with the right foot? You're going to know, we learned it from mitzorah. Mitzorah is done on the right foot, and also the chalitza has to be done with the right foot. So the truth is, by the way, right, you could answer it very, very simple, right? What was the mitzorah for? Lashon hara. What is L'Isur Lashon? You listen. Yeah? But okay, but anyway, but that's again, that's already Mitzvah, somebody else. So here it says here like this. Yevamos says, Rabbi Lazar, what about Rabbi Lazar? Rabbi Lazar does not learn regular Mitzvah. Are you going to tell me that at the end of the day, if he's going to tell you that you can do it with the left foot, that it's still going to be kosher? It means that he's not learning the Gzera Shavah, regel. But how could it be? The Tanya we learned in the Braita, Rabbi Lazar says, how do we know that the Ritziyah, right, of an Eved Ivri? Remember, an Eved Ivri is a Jewish slave. He had to sell himself because he didn't have, right, enough. He stole, he didn't have enough money to pay back, right? Or he didn't have money, so he sold himself as a slave. And then what happens? He said, after selling himself as a slave, he goes out after Shemitah. Afterwards, he comes by Shemitah, which is the 7th year. This year is Shemitah. Right now, we're in Shemitah. And all of a sudden, he comes and he says, that's in French, Richard. Right? All of a sudden, he comes. Okay. Yeah? All of a sudden, he comes and he says, you know what? What's it called? I want to stay. You want to stay? No problem. What do? We make an ear pierce in his ear, and he stays until Yovel. When is Yovel? Every 50 years. So not anymore 7 years. Shemitah is 7 years. It's 50 years. Why? Because the ear that heard on Har Sinai, Kili Avadim, Avadaihem, Lo Avadim, Lavadim, which means that they're my servants. You're not supposed to be a servant of another servant, which means you cannot be even a servant of a Jew. Because if you're a Jew and you're a servant, that means you're a servant of a servant. And you have to be my servant, servant of God, not the servant of a servant. So therefore, they come and they pierce the earlobe. So he says over there, how do we know also that it's on the right earlobe? And by the way, you know why we used to do it on the door? We used to, why do we used to do it on the door? Right? No, that's the reason why on the ear. That's the reason why it's on the ear. Ozen Shelo Shama. Why on the door? Because they wanted to find out whose slave it is. Whose slave it is. Imagine right now I come, right? And I go to the bathhouse and I see your slave. And I come and I say, by the way, right, this is my slave. You come and you say, what are you talking about? It's my slave. Now, it wasn't like in the nowadays, there's no DNA, there's no nothing. So what do? You check the door. You put his ear to the door and you see what his height is with the door. And with that, you're able to match whose servant is. Yeah. You understand? Why? Because if you're going to say, 1 second, you're a slave. Let me see your door. If they come to your door, there was no hole. How's your slave? Obviously not your slave. Even let's say there was an ear pierce in your door. There was a nail in the door. But I'm going to check and say, too tall, too short, something's wrong here. I go. Yeah. So there you have it. You like it? There you go. So Ne'emar Khan, it says Oziel. V'ratza Adonav et Ozno. V'ne'emar lehalan Oziel. It says ear. Oziel. Right? Not the ears of a man. Yeah? But it says ear. What does that mean? Just like over there, it's talking about the right. Al Tinuch Oziel Amitara Haymanit. It's in the Torah. You're putting it by the Mitzorah on Oziel Amitara Haymanit. The Yamin, the right one. So to here, it has to be the Yamin. So therefore, even if you're not going to come and make Gzera Shavah regel, you still have Oziel. So I'm going to be typing Yosef and Yochanan. Mukhlefet Hashita. You're right. It's switch. The Tanakama and Rabbi Lazar, which is the mean that it was made by mistake. Really, Rabbi Lazar is the one that says that if you do it with the left foot, it's pasul, and the Chachamim say it's kosher, which means it is. You go back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah said if you do chalitza in the nighttime, Tanakama says kosher. Rabbi Lazar says pasul. If you did it with the left foot, Tanakama says pasul. Rabbi Lazar says kosher. Flip it. Rabbi Lazar says pasul in both cases. Disqualifies in both cases. Tanakama permits in both cases. Mukhlefet Hashita, you switch the shita, you switch it over. Okay? That's the first answer. Second answer. Rabbi says, Leolam lo tipuf. Really, be'emet, don't switch it. Ozen, mufne. What does that mean? Both of them are going to be empty. What does it mean, empty? Usually when we learn Gzera Shavah, there's many different ways of how you learn Gzera Shavah, or for example, you're going to Chomer. Is it that both of them are free, which means both of them are not being used on both sides? That's called mufne. Mufne is like a panuya, fluya, somebody that's a bachelor. What? Yes, also the same way when you're turning, right? When you're turning, which means that it doesn't matter how you're going. It's always like panui tmiya. What is it? A bachelor, it's called a panui. A girl that's not married, she's called a panuya. Why? She's free. She's available. What does it mean available? It's extra, which means that we're not learning something specifically from it. So says the Gemara, Oziel is mufne. Both of them were extra, which means we don't need it for any other thing. However, the regel is a low mufne, which means by the regel, we need it for something. And therefore, we prefer to learn it from something which is extra than something which is not extra, which means it is. If right now I have a choice, and I could learn halacha from something which is available, I prefer to take it from something which is available than to take it from something which is not available. Right? Why? Because then there's much more problems. So he says, okay, fine. Let's say it's not mufne, which means let's say it's not available. What is the question? Because if they're both available, even if you have a question against it, you cannot rebuttal it. You cannot get rid of it. Why? It's so strong because they're both extra on both sides. There's nothing what to do. If they're not mufne, you can start asking a question, and then you could defer it. So now, what's the question that you can ask? So he says, you could ask, It says, 1 second, you could ask against the Gzera Shava by the Mitzorah, the person that has leprosy, right? The leper. What are you going to do? You have to come, you have to take an Etz Eres, a cedar wood tree, right? You have to take the branch. Then you're going to take a Hisset, the Izol, and then you're going to take Shnitolat, right, which is the crimson wool. And then you're going to come and you're going to use this for the sprinkling. So he says that you only need it by the Mitzorah. You don't need that by Chalitza. So therefore, what are you learning from one to another? Okay, so because of that, we prefer to learn it from something which is free, available, and something which is not going to be available. Mishnah on the bottom of Kufdal Amudal. Okay, 104a, the bottom, Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Chalitza, like this. First of all, we know that when a woman does Chalitza, there are 3 different things that have to be done. Number 1, the reading of the Psukim, which means at the beginning they have to read all the Psukim, right? And then they read it again. Number 2, Chalitza Tana'al, she takes off the shoe. And number 3, she has to spit towards the Yavam. Okay? So 3 different things has to be done. Okay? Now, all of it is going to be mentioned later on in the Mishnah in 3 days' time. Kuvav Amubet, over there the Mishnah speaks about it. However, our Mishnah is going to speak about one of the cases, right, that if it was not done. So, for example, Chalitza Verakika Avalo Kara. What happens if she took off the shoe, she spat, right, but she has to spit towards the Yavam. So she has to say it's this like disgusting. How could it be that he doesn't want to build his brother's home? His brother died by a miskin, right? He has no children. At least get married to the sister-in-law in order to have a child, and that child will be instead of the brother. But now you don't want to build your brother's home. So what happens? She has to spit. So what? They did the Chalitza, they did the Rekika, she did the Rekika, but they didn't read the Psukim. Right? Chalitza Kshera, it's going to be kosher. Kar'a, if she read the Psukim, Verakika, she spat, but she didn't do the Chalitza. Chalitza Psula, it's going to be pasul, disqualified. Chalitza Bekara, she did the Chalitza and she read the Psukim, but she did not spit. Rabbi Eliezer says Chalitza Psula, it's pasul, and Rabbi Akiva says Chalitza Kshera, it's going to be kosher. Okay? Elmaleh, Rabbi Eliezer says Rabbi Eliezer, right? Kacha Yaseh. We are on 104b. Kufdal Amubet. Yeah, it says we are Kacha Yaseh. What does it mean? This is what you have to do to somebody that did not want to build the brother's house. This is what you have to do. Kacha Yaseh. Shekol davar shu ma'aseh. Anything which is a ma'aseh, an action, is me'akev. It impedes the kashrut of the chalitza. So Elmaleh, Rabbi Akiva says, Misham ra'ayah. From there you want to bring the truth. Kacha Yaseh la'ish. Kol davar shu ma'aseh begufa ishon. Only if it's going to be something in the actual man in itself. But the rekika is not in the goof of the yavam. So it shouldn't be impeded. Which means, even though the spitting is an action, it's not an action in the man. So therefore, I understand taking off the shoe, it's in the body of the man. The spitting is towards the man. It's not the man. So therefore, therefore it shouldn't impede. Okay, next, acheresh nechlatz, right? The achereshet. What happens now if you have a deaf mute? A woman that she's a deaf mute. So, for example, what happens now if the chalitza was done to a cheresh, to a deaf mute man, meaning the brother was a deaf mute, or the chareshet, which means the sister-in-law, the one doing the Yibum, she was the one that did, right, the chalitza. So he says, vecholetzet, right, or the Yevamos, which is choletzet for katan, chalitzata psula, it's going to be pasul. Ktana, right, when we're talking about the ktana shechaltzat, lachlot, which is when they get older, they have to do chalitza again. In lo chalitza, but if they did not do the chalitza psula, why? Since the chalitza was done when they were minor, when they were small, so it's not going to be good. Chalitza b'shnayim or b'shlosha, they did chalitza in 2 or 3, which means in front of 2 dayanim or 3 dayanim. Dimsa chamen karov pasul, and one of them was found to be a karov pasul. Chalitzata psula, the chalitza is going to be pasul. Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yochanan, and Sandar machshivim. Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yochanan, Sandar, they say that it's going to be kosher. U'maseh ve'echad shechalatz beno lebena. There was a story with a person that he did chalitza between him and her. Bevet asurim in jail. And they came in for Rabbi Akiva, and he said it was going to be kosher. So now let's see the Gemara. So the Gemara says, Amar Rava says, Hashtada Marta Kriya lo me'ak. But now that you just said that the Kriya, the reading of the Psukim, does not impede, which means it's still going to be kosher. Therefore, what happens now if he's an ilem or she's an ilemet? He is mute, right? Or she's mute, which means they cannot speak. They could hear, they cannot speak. Remember, cheresh is usually deaf mute both together, right? Or just deaf. Here, though, it's mute, which means they cannot speak. So therefore, the kriya is not me'akev, which means the reading is not impeded. So even though one of them is going to be mute, whether it's the man or the woman, or even both, it's going to be kosher. So now, what we learned in the Mishnah, cheresh nechlatz, the cheresh shechaltza, v'acholetz gina k'tan chalitza b'tzudah. My time, what's reasoning? Lam yishum below b'nei kriyanim. Says 1 second. Why is it that a mining everything is pasul or deaf mute? Why is it that everything is disqualified? Is it not because that it's going to be because they cannot read it? So therefore, what's the difference between a deaf mute or a mute? At the end of the day, they're mute. So says no, mishum below b'nei dianim. Because according to the Shita, they don't have a mind. Meaning, if somebody's deaf mute, they're not 100% there. Yeah, it's like a shoteh. It's like a person that's mentally deranged. Thank you. I didn't want to say retarded, incompetent. Exactly. No, but saying retarded doesn't sound good. It sounds, but it's basically somebody that does not have the right, like what you said, it's incompetent. Usually the ones which know the sign language are the ones that at the beginning they did have, they weren't deaf mute from the beginning. Yeah, well, again, that would be fine. But again, in this case, it's not the same. Because here it's lav b'nei diyah. Lav b'nei diyah is only something that's deaf mute, not mute. Okay? So it should be the same thing. No. The ilem, they are, right? They are normal people. But they just have a defect in their mouths. Meaning they can't speak, but they're 100% normal. Okay? So says the Gemara, 1 second, but in the academy of Rabbi, they came and said, is because they cannot say Amar ve'amira. So Ela kitman the Rava, when Rava said it, a seifa yitman, on the seifa. Cheresh nechlatz, cheresh nechlatza, v'choletzet, v'amin akatach, litzta p'tzulah, Amar Rava hashtu, Amar t'kriya ma'akva. Now that you just said that the reading impedes, the fichach, therefore, 11 of the shekholta p'litzta p'tzulah, it's going to be pasul. U'matzitin in our Mishnah, like Rabbi Zera. Amar Rabbi Zera says Rabbi Zera, kol ha'ra'ui lebilah, em bilah me'akevet bo, which means like this. There's a very famous concept brought down all over Shas. For example, right? You want to go to the mikveh. Do you have to open up your eyes? Inside the mikveh, do you have to open up your eyes? No. What happens if I have contact lenses and I go into the mikveh? Is that good or not?
No,
not allowed to. Why? If you told me I don't says the Vizera, kol ra'ui lebilah. Okay, if it's not going to be that, then it is naked. What does that mean? If right now I go inside the mikveh, and going inside the mikveh, I don't have to open up my eyes. You're right. I shouldn't push very hard close because if not, I make little tiny pockets, right, in certain areas. So don't close too much. But I just go to mikveh. You don't have to open up your eyes and have the water, the chlorine and everything gets into your eyes. You don't need that. You understand? But what happens is that if I put something there that is a chatzitza, now it is naked.
The mouth.
Same with the mouth. Very good. The mouth also, when you go into the mikveh, you don't have to open up your mouth, right? You don't have to take the water, swallow the water. Now you're having said kosher because it went in your body. Oh, you don't have to do that. But if you have something in your mouth, now it's a chatzitza. Now it's a problem. So the same thing here. Meaning, usually it's not me'akev, it's not a problem. But here, the fact that now, right, it is me'akev because they cannot talk, now it's a problem. Capish? Very good. Says the Gemara, we're almost finished. Another 5 minutes, right, and we're done. So they sent, huh? Okay. Yeah, yeah, he says, yeah, contact lenses. That's why I said contact lenses. Yeah, so he says, they sent to the father of Shmuel. He says they sent the question, what happens if you have a case of a Yevamah that she spat in the betin in front of one of the brothers? So she should do chalitza, which means she has to do chalitza, right? Why? Because the second that she did the spitting, she cannot do yibum after. So imagine, the husband dies, she goes to Bedin, and now they're going to find out. Are they going to do yibum, chalitza? We're going to find out. So technically speaking, the best scenario is to do yibum, right? If not, you do chalitza. Nowadays, right, it's actually machlok and Rama. Maran brings down that you could still do yibum nowadays, but the Rama brings down that we don't do yibum nowadays. The reason why is because he suspected that if you're not doing it l'shem shamayim, which means if you're not doing it 100% to build your brother's home, so then you're having relations with your sister-in-law. And having relations with the sister-in-law is isur karet. You get cut off. So because of that, right, they said that maybe it's not 100% for l'shem shamayim. Maybe it's because you liked your sister-in-law always, and finally now you're going to be able to be with her. So because of that, right, because of that, what happens is that you're not allowed to do it anymore. So therefore, according to Ashkenazim, there's no such thing as yibum, right? Only according to Sfaradim. And even that, that's why in Morocco, they still used to do, right, yibum, even until the last, right, century and everything. They were still doing yibum. Why? Ashkenazim, no, right? Because of this suspicion that maybe you're not doing l'shem shamayim. So now what happens? They come to the Bedin, and all of a sudden she spits. The second that she spits, she cannot do yibum anymore. Automatically, only chatitza. She cannot do yibum anymore. Okay? Only chatitza. From here we can infer the pasla lamachim, right? That she becomes pasul. Then the fact that she went and she spit, right, in the bedin, so she spat in the bedin, but now she becomes pasul to the brothers. Who is this? If you're going to tell me, if you're going to tell me Rabbi Akiva, hashta now, if it's going to be the time of mitzvah, that it's going to be like the emunim of the korbanot. Remember, the emunim of the korbanot are the different limbs of the sacrifices that you bring up to the mizbeach. Because even if you didn't bring them, for example, they got lost or became tameh, it's not doesn't impede. If they are there, it doesn't impede. So Rabbi Akiva lo me'akbar. Rabbi Akiva says it's not going to impede. They're going to tell me that it's going to be pasul for the brothers, but rather it has to be Rabbi Eliezer. The hashne dvarim matzim. These are two things which permit. Chalitza and vekika are two things which combine to permit the Yevamah to the shuk, to the marketplace. Right? Ushne dvarim matzim. When you only have two aspects, meaning there are two ways, there are two keys to open up the door, right? You need two keys. So one key is a spitting. The other key is chalitza, taking off the shoe. You cannot permit without either one. Meaning since there's only two keys, you need both keys. So says the Gemara, so then 1 second, according to this, you still needed two of them. So it doesn't help just the spitting. So it says, it goes like Rabbi, right? The Torah was learned to the right side. When you have the kivsat, remember on Shavuot, you have kivasim. What are kivasim? The sheep. So the sheep, the kivsat, which is the korban shlamim, shalvei tzibur chag shmot, it's not going to sanctify the bread, right? Which is the shtei alechem, unless you do shchita. Keitzal, what was the case? Shachtan lishman, if you did right now shchita for the tzibur, zaraktam al lishman, you did zrikat adam, you sprinkle the blood for the lishman. Yeah, and now he says kadash alechem. Right, and he did also kiddush alechem. Shachat shelo lishman, he did shchita shelo lishman, zarak lishman, lo kadash alechem, shachtan lishman, zarak daman shelo lishman, kadosh, it comes out that it's holy. Ve'eno kadosh, it's not going to be holy. These are the words of Rabbi. What does that mean? It's kiddushat aguf, the body is holy, but it's still permitted to eat it. Okay? These are the words of Rabbi. Because Rabbi Shimon said, le'olam eno kadosh, it's not going to be holy, actually, shchot lishman, ve'zirok daman lishman. You need both aspects. You have to do shechita, the slaughtering lishman, plus the sprinkling of the blood lishman. So it comes out that according to Shechat Rebbe, once you have two things which are matilim, right? If one of them is already done, it already has kiddushat aguf, even though it doesn't have the kiddusha of the eating, but it does have kiddushat aguf. So therefore, the same thing. The fact that you did one out of the two, so it's already going to be enough. Then now she becomes disqualified that she cannot do yibum to the brothers. So says the Gemara, does the Rekiva say that even spitting is not enough to disqualify? Right? What happens right now if she did chalitza without the spitting? Or, right, she didn't read the psukim. Chalitza takshera. On the top, 105a. She spit, but he did not take off the shoe. She did not read, it's going to be pasul. If she read the psukim but she did not do nothing else, ain't coming with them for sure now. Meaning, according to everybody, the reading of the psukim is the least of the important of the other two actions. Because the other two actions is an action. Here, it's not action, just reading the psuk. So obviously, there will continue with Hashem tomorrow morning.